Well, good evening to you all. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Partick Trinity this evening, and also to extend a welcome to those who might be joining us from home or on holiday via the live stream. Now, before we come to what we're going to be thinking about this evening, today on Good Friday, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite you all to our Easter Sunday service, which will be at 11 o'clock on Sunday. All our children and young people will be in the service with us, and it'll be a service full of music and celebration. And for those who are up early, there's also the opportunity to join with other local churches at 9 o'clock in the morning in the Botanic Gardens. And that can be quite a significant time of journeying through the garden like those on the first Easter morning. Now this evening, I don't suppose the atmosphere will feel like an atmosphere of celebration and singing. Instead, we're going to take our time to listen and reflect together on the events of the first Good Friday. And this evening, there will be three strands that are woven together. First, we'll hear the account of Jesus' crucifixion as narrated in Mark's Gospel. And secondly, we'll hear four short poems or sonnets that tease open the significance of those events described by Mark. And third, we're going to hear three of the Psalms adapted and set to music. The Psalms were the prayers and the songs of Israel, well known to Jesus, but also in Jesus' own life and suffering and vindication, we find the fulfillment of all that the psalmist sang and prayed about before God. Now, whatever your starting point is this evening, my hope is that these strands together will draw us in and draw us closer to the man of sorrows, the man upon the cross. And once we begin this evening, one thing is simply going to flow to the next, unannounced, and we'll conclude at the end of our third and final psalm. So before I begin, I want to acknowledge with thanks some of the creative work that has helped shape the service tonight. So the three recordings of psalms that we'll hear, Psalm 143, 13 and 27, are all recorded by a husband and wife duo who go under the name Poor Bishop Hooper as part of their EveryPsalm project. And the four sonnets that we'll hear this evening were written by Malcolm Guite, and they all come from his 2012 book called Sounding the Seasons. But the voice you'll hear reading those poems belongs to Christine, one of the elders here, and a friend, and we're grateful to Christine for doing that for us. Our title this evening, A Man of Sorrows, comes from the Old Testament and from Isaiah 53, verse 3. And I'm going to read that verse to us, and then there's going to be a minute or so of music. And I suppose this is an opportunity for us to focus, to check our phones are on silence, and then in the quiet, to open ourselves up to the possibility that God might meet with us in a fresh way as we journey together to the cross. He was a man. He was despised and rejected by men. A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Jesus before Pilate. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things. So again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they're accusing you of." But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now, it was the custom at the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man called Barabbas was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to get Pilate to release Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with the one you call the King of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified.
Jesus is condemned to death. The very air that Pilate breathes, the voice with which he speaks in judgment, all his powers of perception and discrimination, choice, decision, all his years, his days and hours, his consciousness of self, his every sense are given by this prisoner, freely given. The man who stands there making no defense is God. His hands are tied, his heart is open, and he bears Pilate's heart in his and feels that crushing weight of wasted life. He lifts it up in silent love. He lifts and heals. He gives himself again with all his gifts into our hands. As Pilate turns away, a door swings open. This is Judgment Day.
Hear my prayer, O Lord, give ear to my plea. out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. Hide not your face from me, lest I be dead and let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love. Set me on sure footing, for your will, Lord, teach me. Let your spirit lead me on level ground. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. I stretch out my hands to you, my soul it thirsts for you, like a parched land would you answer me. Oh Lord, for your name's sake, save my life with your faith. Oh Lord, for your name's sake, I am your servant.
The soldiers mock Jesus. The soldiers led Jesus away into the palace, that is, the praetorium, and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him, then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on him. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Again and again they struck him on the head with a staff and spat on him. Falling on their knees, they paid homage to him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him.
Jesus is stripped of his garments. You can't go on. You go on anyway. He goes with you, his cradle to your grave. Now is the time to loosen, cast away the useless weight of everything but love. For he began his letting go before the worlds for which he dies were made, emptied himself, became one of the poor to make you rich in him and unafraid. See, as they strip the robe from off his back, They strip away your own defences too. Now you could lose it all and never lack. Now you can see what naked love can do. Let go those bonds beneath whose weight you bow. His stripping strips you both for action now.
The crucifixion of Jesus. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it, and they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So, you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross, that we may see and believe." Those crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
Jesus is nailed to the cross. See, as they stripped the robe from off his back and spread his arms and nailed them to the cross, the dark nails pierce him and the sky turns black, and love is firmly fastened onto loss. But here a pure change happens. On this tree, loss becomes gain, death opens into birth. Here, wounding heals, and fastening makes free. Earth breathes in heaven, heaven roots in earth. And here we see the length, the breadth, the height, where love and hatred meet and love stays true, where sin meets grace, and darkness turns to light. We see what love can bear and be and do. And here our Saviour calls us to his side. His love is free. His arms are open wide.
How long will you forget? sorrow day by day. How long will you forget me? How long will you look away? How long will my mind anguish with sorrow day by day? Restore the light to my eyes, turn and answer me, answer me. Restore the light to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep and never wake. Restore the light to my eyes, turn and answer me, answer me. Restore the light to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep and never wake. How long will you forget me? How long will you hide your face? How long will my heart anguish with sorrow every day? Restore the light to my eyes, turn and answer me, answer me. Restore the light to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep and never wake. Restore the light to my eyes, turn and answer me, answer me. Restore the light to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep and never wake. But my heart will rejoice in your deliverance. I will sing to the Lord because you're generous. But my heart will rejoice in your deliverance. I will sing to the Lord because you're generous.
The death of Jesus. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing near heard this, they said, Listen, he's calling Elijah. Someone ran, filled the sponge with wine vinegar and put it on a staff and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down, he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, Surely this man was the Son of God.
Jesus dies on the cross. The dark nails pierce him, and the sky turns black. We watch him as he labours to draw breath. He takes our breath away to give it back, return it to its birth through his slow death. We hear him struggle, breathing through the pain, who once breathed out his spirit on the deep, who formed us when he mixed the dust with rain and drew us into consciousness through sleep. His spirit and his life he breathes in awe, mantles his world in his one atmosphere, and now he comes to breathe beneath the pall of our pollutions, draw our injured air to cleanse it and renew. His final breath breathes us and bears us through the gates of death.
Long before the first Good Friday, God spoke to his people through the prophet Isaiah. Behold, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and lifted up, and shall be very high. As many were astonished at him, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the sons of men. So shall he startle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which has not been told them they shall see, and that which they have not heard they shall understand. Who has believed what we have heard? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or comeliness that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that made us whole, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
He's my light and my salvation. Why should I ever be afraid? The Lord is the stronghold upon my life, and of whom should I be afraid? Even with false witness or constant breath of violence, I know the one who cares is there. Even if my father and my mother both abandon, I know the Lord who cares for me is there. I've heard you saying, seek my face and come and talk with me. Come and talk with me. My heart responds in the way you made it. Lord, I'm coming. I am coming. Though the darkness surrounds, I know I am protected. My heart will never be afraid. To gaze upon your beauty, God, and see you in your temple, I will stand hidden in you. I've heard you saying, seek my face and come and talk with me. Come and talk with me. And my heart responds in the way you made it. Lord, I'm coming. I am coming. I am certain I will live in the house of the Lord all of my days. I know I will delight in the house of the Lord all of my days. I'm certain I will live in the house